Hello, welcome back to Oops Spoilers, a podcast that is part of the Other Girls Media Cinematic Universe. No, in all seriousness, welcome back. I am excited. This is the first review that I'm doing since I think I saw since July or June was the last time I did a review. So we're back, baby. We're back and we're ready for action. I'm really excited to review this movie. I'm recording this on a rainy Saturday morning, and I actually saw this movie last night, and I cannot stop thinking about it. I think I had a part of it, I dreamed about it, but ever since I was a kid, I was like that. Like if we went to the movies and then we went to bed right after, whatever the movie was, that is what I would dream about. Like I just knew. That's why I don't do scary movies, and I certainly don't do scary movies at night, because if I watch a movie and then I go to bed right after, your girl's dreaming about it. So yes. Okay. Really excited about this movie. The name of this movie is Cabrini. First of all, I hear first woman to do, you don't even have to finish the sentence, I'm there. Love being a girl, love girl power, love supporting most, if not all women. I can't say all because that's unrealistic. That's statistically impossible, but I'll say I support most. I hear first one, I'm there, I'm done, I'm down, So that's what this movie's about. So I am going to give a review. I'm going to explain the movie, and then give it its TOG score. All right. So first, let's really just get into it. I'm going to read to you the description from IMDb. Arriving in New York City in 1889, Italian immigrant Francesca Cabrini is greeted by disease, crime, and impoverished children. She soon sets off on a daring mission to convince the mayor to secure housing and health care for society's most vulnerable. With broken English and poor health, Cabrini uses her entrepreneurial mind to build an empire of hope among anything the world has ever seen. Oh, on this thing, on Google / IMDb thing that I'm reading, it says, in a nutshell, inspiring, wintry, and emotional. It was so good. Like, I cannot express how good it was. So I'm about to talk about the movie, and then I'm going to give a score 1 through 5 about the plot, the language, the spice, the entertainment, and then all of that will equal the overall TLG score. A reminder, this is my opinion. You feel free to disagree, because, entertainment is subjective, and this is all very personal. Like, however you feel, your life experiences, what you do, it's all personal. So if you disagree, you can disagree, but I just want you to remember, it's my opinion. Mine. Okay. So if you don't want to listen anymore, if you're like, you know what, I heard the description, I think I want to watch the movie first, this is where you log off. Because I don't want you to hear any of the oops spoilers. All right, here we go. Like I said, enjoyed the movie greatly. The movie starts off with this young boy trying to, his mother, well, first of all, it's in 89, I believe. And this young boy is speaking Italian, and he is trying to get his mom some help. She is in a cart and she's dying. It's a powerful opening scene. Because he doesn't speak English. All he speaks is Italian. And he's trying to get help, and everybody's like, leave me alone. We don't want you here. Go back home. You can't go to this hospital. And they're using derogatory terms to refer to him, things I personally have never heard of. What I just find so interesting is I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, the South. It's changed a lot because everyone from up there, Yankees, came down to here. So it's very interesting because I just feel like and then later they say some other derogatory terms that I picked up that they were derogatory. Like, I had never heard anything like that before, but I feel like people had. I just like down here, there is one derogatory term that they use, that people use, and that I've heard. But it's just interesting because there's just really not that much like, I just feel like, for example, growing up in high school, I had more in common with my, like, not more in common. I just feel like my friends that were their families had been in Charlotte for years, like generations. Culturally, I guess maybe it's more in common than like let's say this gentleman, I'm referring to a woman who's white, than someone whose family just came from Italy. So anyway, like, I just think that's so interesting how like the difference is like down here and up there. Anyway, and then obviously it's not to that extreme going on, but like even when I was in New Jersey, everyone knew like, oh yeah, my family's from blah blah blah, and like down here, people would say, oh yeah, I'm like 186th Italian or something like that. But up there, it's like, oh yeah, no, my grandparents came, and we still speak Italian in our house occasionally, which is just so interesting. But New York, New Jersey, that's just kind of how it is up there. Anyway, those are my thoughts on culture in the U.S., North versus South. Anyway, so that's how it starts off, and it's pretty powerful because he does not find someone to help his mom. Instead, his mom passes away. It's sad, and like they ask him if he has a dad, and he can't even understand what they're saying. Like, that's another thing too. The movie is like half in Italian, which I really don't like watching. Like, even if I were to watch, like, I don't know, I just don't like watching not subscriptions. I don't like watching sub things that are subbed. I prefer dubbed. But I will say, like, I still was entertained. That's one of the points that we'll be judging. I was still entertained, but half of the movie isn't Italian. So, they're talking to him. He can't even really understand it. I said him about his dad, and he can't understand them. They can't understand him. And then it cuts over to Cabrini, and she is up in, she lives on a, I don't even know what it's called. I get in a monastery. She lives in a monastery, and she lives on the top, and she's having problems breathing. So long story short, we find out that the first thing that we find out is she has problems with her lungs. Like, she cannot breathe well, but she's a nun. She has been trying to go to China because she wants to help the poor there, and she lives with, I think it was like 5 other sisters that were also nuns, and she's their leader, and they're working in Italia. They're working in Italy, and she keeps writing because they want to do a mission in China. So she gets a call up to go to the Vatican. She goes to the Vatican, and I'm not Catholic, so I don't know I believe it's an archbishop, or a bishop, tells her, hey, I wanted to tell you one last time, you are not able to go to China. Like, you can't, we're not doing it. You're not going. I wanted to tell you. And she's like, at first she's kind of sad about it, and then she goes, is this from you or from the Pope? And I, obviously I know the Pope, and you guys know the Pope. The Pope is like the head of Catholicism. Like, what he says goes. So she's like, is this from you or from the Pope? And he's like, it's from me, and the Pope is going to agree with me. One of those things like, big man, I'm telling you what to do type of attitude, which is, you tell anyone that you're going to go above them, like, that quick way to get them upset. So then she goes, well, I am, she goes, well, if that's the case, then I want to talk to the Pope. I'm going to talk to the Pope myself. I'm going to talk to the Pope myself. Homegirl gets to talk to the Pope herself. She tells the Pope this is what she wants to do. And then one couple lines that I loved. I wish I had written them down, but hopefully I'll find them and maybe I'll post them and I like print them out and put them on my mirror. It said something like, she said like, the world is too small for her goals or something like that, because she wanted to create like hospitals and like a place for poor people all throughout the world, and she wanted to start in China. Said something like that. Another thing she said that like, ooh, it was like, yes, very inspiring. He said something about raising money, and she said, oh, if I had to wait to raise the money, then it wouldn't get done. And like, if you know anything about me, that's how I live my life. Half joking, half joking. Come to the tea party that those are the girls just throwing. Anyway, so good. So long story short, he's like, all right, girl, let's go. I'm gonna send you out, but it's not gonna be to China. I'm gonna send you to New York. Let's pause for a second. When he said that, like looking back, I think he sent her there thinking she would fail and then she'd stop asking about it, which is another reason why I'm like, go girl, because not only did she not fail, I'll get to how she didn't fail soon, but not only did she not fail, she far exceeded anyone's expectations. One of the things that I truly really enjoyed is how they intercut. So we find out, sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier. When she's up there coughing, we find out that part of the reason why she's coughing is because she almost drowned and it messed up her lungs. And they told her she was not going to live a long time. She lived till like 67 or something like that. And this was when she was young, like young. She felt, and they said, oh no, yeah, maybe a couple years. God kept her on earth till she was like 67. I mean, amazing. So it kept intercutting between you don't belong here, you're not going to make it, stay where you're supposed to be, which is just like, when I think about that, like it makes me almost emotional, because I don't know about you, but if you've ever felt that, if anyone's ever told you that to your face, and just like how like you just keep going, like the two things that I have lived my life by recently, and like I'm very happy and I think I'm a better person for it. If they don't give you a seat at the table, you bring your own chair. If they push you out of that chair and don't want you at that table, you make your own table. And let me tell you something, I'm making my own table. And is it hard? Absolutely. Blood, sweat, and tears for sure. Lots of money spent. Couldn't tell you how much. But making your own table is just so much. I mean, it's so rewarding, and like you're doing it. Like at the end of the day, you're doing what you wanted to do. You're setting it out and you're doing it. Anyway, sorry. That's just like a side rant. So I think he sent her there. Like the vibe I got is he sent her there because he wanted her to fail. So she and the other sisters, they go to America. They're supposed to be picked up by the priest over the orphanage. So they're going to like help with the orphanage. They're supposed to be picked up by a priest that's currently over the orphanage. Well, he doesn't pick them up. So they walk all the way to this area called 5 Points. 5 Points is where the Italian immigrants live. They all lived in this like really, so they're walking there. First of all, when they got there, the priest didn't come. So there was a carriage, and or the bishop didn't come either. So there was a carriage, and they were like, hey, can you drop us off to 5 Points? And the guy was like, I don't go to 5 Points this late. So they're like, okay, I guess we'll walk. So they walk, and that's where you see like it's really dirty. It's a poor area. It's what we would say is a ghetto in, I guess that's what they said back then too. Anyway, it was just a really bad area, and dangerous and everything. So they're walking there and they're looking like, okay, so it's Cabrini and her fellow sisters. That's part of her order. So they're walking and looking like, okay. Well, then they see some girls run away, and she's like, oh, this is what we're here for. Like, let's help these girls. So they kind of disappear off into an alley, and then a woman's like, and they say, hey, where did those girls go? And the woman's like, what are you doing? Like, you should not be here. It is too late. Like, don't be here. and this girl is implied to be a prostitute. So long story short, she helps them stay at this place, and then the owner like bangs on the door, real angry, and she lets them stay at this place. They go up into a room because they don't have a room because they walked this whole time. They need to go to bed, so they don't have a room. She lets them stay in this place, and she goes, "You need to barricade the door and don't tell anyone that I let you in here." Just water, and they're like, okay, so they're, and then in the middle of the night, the owner comes banging on the door, and he's like, "No one stays here for free. I don't care if you're nuns. If you guys come back here, you're gonna wish you hadn't." One of those big bad men standing up against a bunch of women who are just trying to help people. Big bad man. So that happens. Finally get to 5 points. They meet the priest. The priest is like, "Oh God, you guys came." The priest said he didn't want them to come. Long story short, they're telling her go back home. She says, "Oh no, the Pope said I could be here. So you gonna go against the Pope?" So they're like, "Okay, fine, you're gonna be here." They go to the orphanage, the current orphanage. Oh, first of all, they go into the current orphanage, and there's kids sitting in there. It's run down, it's dirty, there's rats, like ugh. And side note, I wonder when they do and film stuff like that, are they real rats? And then are they trained rats if they are real rats? Or do they kind of just like, anyway, just thinking about it. So there's rats, it's disgusting, and there's kids in there. And the priest is like, "Get out of here." And she's like, "What are you doing? Don't tell the orphans to leave. Like, this is for them." And he's like, "You have no idea, sister." And they're like, "Okay, whatever." So then they turn the place around, they make it so nice. And once again, side note, you cannot sit here and tell me that every single woman on this earth is supposed to be at home. Who's supposed to run things like that? Who's supposed to run pregnancy centers? Because I'm sorry, not saying that men aren't capable, not saying that men, are bad people, but I mean, specifically orphans or like people who don't have good mothers, like they need moms, like, and to turn things around like that, like men weren't gonna, like the way they turn it around, it was so beautiful. Men aren't gonna do that. I'm sorry, they're not. Especially if we're going by this "I'm big macho man" thing that a lot of I'm not gonna say who, but certain groups of people want us to think. I'm like, that's dumb. It's a dumb idea. We need women to be a part of things like that. Women need to be running the things like that. And that you're not going to convince me otherwise. I'm sorry, you're not. You're not going to convince me otherwise. When a woman is by herself and she's pregnant and she's scared, I'll even go to the most extreme because she has been sexually abused by someone and she's scared. By a man, obviously, if she is pregnant by a man. I'm sorry, she needs a woman in there with her. She needs a woman in there with her. She needs someone in there to hold her hand, to tell her it's going to be okay. Not another man. So to sit here and say every single woman is supposed to not do anything, is supposed to be at home, like that's just I'm sorry, that's like not reality. So anyway, they turn it around. Because, I mean, that's what women do. We make things beautiful. And that's another thing too. I left this movie of like, I am woman. Hear me roar. I couldn't even get that out. It's so cringe. But no. I left feeling like, yeah, like women, we are powerful. Like we can do things, and like love is such a big. And once again, don't hear me say men can't love, but men can't love like a woman can love, and especially children that need love and nurturing. I'm sorry, they can't. Men and women are different, and that's one of the ways they're different. All right, back to the story. So they redo that, and then they work to get to bring in different orphans, and like there's this montage of them. Like it was really making me emotional. Like they were like, some little girls, and they were like doing their hair and like help wash them, because like the problem in that area is parents were dying from disease. Really, it was from disease, from a lot of things, and they just had nowhere to go. And we can't even really think of that or like fathom that in 2024. because that's the other thing too. I was like trying to put things while I was watching the movie. I was also kind of trying to put things in context, because like literally there was just like some girls on the street that didn't have a family, and they said, "Oh, come on over with us." And like, you, first of all, you can't just have kids live with you in 2024. That's just not something you can do. But we just, and it's just hard to imagine like a kid in 2024, which let me tell you, I have no doubt that it happens. No doubt that it happens. But it's definitely a lot more regulated, and like if a child dies, there typically are adults somewhere around. I'm sorry, if a parent dies, there's typically adults somewhere around that will notify somebody, or something's going to happen. Like 9 times out of 10, I'll say 9.5 times out of 10, a kid isn't just going to be on the streets. Now, it does happen because, some things, unfortunately, we can't fix completely, but it does happen. But it was just really hard to just imagine the context. But anyway, so they're like, doing the girl's hair, and I love stuff like that. So it was great. And then they run into the girl that's the prostitute again, and they encourage her, like, hey, just come join us. And you can tell, like, she's like hesitant, but then she's like, okay, she will. And there gets to be a point where the pimp comes, and this part was just like, okay. The pimp comes and like grabs her and then smacks one of the kids and like pulls her and is like, you said you were, now you have to work multiple shifts now, blah blah blah, saying all this stuff. And Mother Cabrini is like, you can't go through this door. You cannot take her. She's here with us, which I love. And this is like a big man. Well, the guy, not the guy, well, a kid, one of the orphans, pulls out a gun out of nowhere, which is also like, anyway, pulls out a gun out of nowhere. And everybody's like, oh my God. And he's like, let her go, let her go. So then, of course, the guy lets her go. And then he's holding the gun. It's like a stare down. And Mother Cabrina's like, hey, we don't do things like that here, which I also really love. Like, anyway, such a good movie. So she's like, we don't do things like that here. And it was like a, moment. And because it's a movie, in real life, I don't think anyone should, because it's a movie, I'm like, honestly, he's been a nuisance the whole movie. Just, just, do it. Like, get rid of him. He's been a nuisance the whole movie. Well, he shoots the guy accidentally in the foot. And we hear him plop down, and then, it cuts to the priest. He said something like, so an orphan shot a pimp, and because you were blocking a prostitute from leaving or something like that. It was like, I guess when you put it that way, because it's also like, hey, this is an orphanage. I don't know, that part was like, But once again, like, he was a new, like, get rid of him, But he ended up being fine. Later, she is walking out. She got bread and she's coming back, and him and a buddy come and attack her. And she is attacked. He's beating her, and then she stabs him, and he dies. And she's really tore up about it because she's like, oh wow, now I'm a killer. And Mother Cabrini's like, you're a survivor. Like, he was attacking you. You're a survivor. Plot hole. 2 plot holes, actually. Does the kid get punished for shooting somebody? And then her name is Vittoria. Does Vittoria, like, go to jail for killing somebody? 2 plot holes, but overall it was fine. But those 2 things, like, for I'll say a good next, like, 30 minutes of the movie, I was, like, waiting for her to be arrested. No, she's not arrested. As a matter of fact, she doesn't receive any punishment, so I don't know, but whatever. It moved the plot along. It was good. So then, Mother Cabrini's like, we got to get out of this area because, this is crazy. A pimp can walk in and hit one of her orphans. So she's asking the archdiocese, the guy who's in charge of the archdiocese, which I think is a bishop, not the archbishop. Anyway, whoever's in charge of the archdiocese, she's asking him, like, hey, we need some money because what's going on is we have to get out of this area. We don't have enough beds for the kids. So really, the kids weren't even staying in the orphanage. They were staying underground. because there was not enough space. There were so many orphan kids. There wasn't enough space. There wasn't enough beds. And they are teaching them how to sing. They're trying to teach them school to be able teach them English to be able to go to school and like to be good citizens and everything. So there's so much they needed to do, but they just didn't have the space. And to do that stuff, you needed money. Well, something important: the archdiocese person was Irish, so he understood that like they didn't want the city, New York, didn't want Italians everywhere. Because during this time, Italians were thought of as like dirty, disgusting immigrants. They said that they smelled bad. They said they looked terrible. That's what they said. So they just were like, okay, get these. No, just you're not here with us. Like, go away, type of thing. Which, yikes. So they did that, and then so she's like, well, I need money, and he's like, well, here's a check, that's all I can give you. And she's like, no, I need more money than that. And he says, you could not ask any of the Americans. And she's like, so any of the Americans. And he was like, you can ask Italians. So she's like, you're asking me to ask poor Italians to help poor Italians? And the guy's like, yeah. So she's like, feeling terrible, feeling defeated. And then she goes, so then it cuts back to the orphan, everything going on. And one of the kids runs up and says that a girl has died. So they, go down into the tunnels and like, oh my God, let me see. And a little girl has died. So sad. And then so then they had to take her body over to the morgue, and it's her and Victoria or on the little cart thing taking her body to the morgue. And she goes, even the rats have it better than the Italians or something like that. And then she's like, oh, that's so true. So then they go to the New York Times. Long story short, the New York Times makes this really great article about it, and they start getting donations. So many donations. People are donating. So everybody's reading it. It's like, okay, this is sad. Like, and the article talks about how the little girl died. And like, I mean, as in 2024, we know, like, we hear something sad, we donate. That's what GoFundMe is. Especially like as Christians, and this is what those people claim that they were. The Bible literally says take care of the poor and the widowed and orphans. So it's like, oh, this is literally, like, the Bible literally says orphans. So, if you're a Christian, then like this is what your Savior is telling you to do. So you do it. So, okay. They do that. And they finally are able to get a place. Well, sometimes it cuts over to the mayor, and the mayor doesn't like it. The mayor of New York does not like that all of these Italians are coming into this area. They get a place in the like city area, I guess you could say, for the orphanage, and it's really nice. They spruce it up. They have all this stuff going on, and then an inspector comes and says, you got all these problems, these are all the things that are wrong. And she's like, what? How do we, like, this is so crazy. She goes to tell the archbishop. He's like, sorry, chick, like, can't help you. And he's been talking with the mayor, and the mayor's like, get them out. The mayor offers him some alcohol too, which I thought was very interesting. Get him out. Get the Italians out is what the mayor is basically telling the archdiocese guy. So long story short, he finds them a really nice plot of land. They go to visit it, and she makes a comment like, this is where I'll be buried, which I'm like, oh, love it. Which also is like foreshadowing, like, okay, she will. And it's going back and forth about like people telling her she can't do this, but she does it. She can't do this, but she does it. And when she's feeling, so this I want to say really quick for those who are like into like like production and things like that. What I really liked was whenever she was feeling like she couldn't do something, like they showed like how she was drowning, like it kept intercutting with that. I just thought that was really good. So anyway, so she gets the school and they're like, okay, we did it. Slight problem. There is no running water. The closest water is the river. So they have to do buckets to do the river and everything. But then they started digging holes to try to find a well. So they're doing that. So that's intercutted. And they're trying to figure out how they like how are they going to do that? We gotta do something about that. So then two of the boys are like, she keeps taking in so many people. She's working so hard, Mother Cabrini. We should help. This part, super sad. I'm like, one of those type of things where you kind of like don't say anything because you're like tears are falling. So they go and they join like this. I'm honestly not quite sure what it was, but it was like this thing where they shovel, like you've seen in old movies, they shovel stuff like fire or coals or something. These two young boys, and we've seen them throughout the movie. Two young boys. There's an explosion, and one of them dies. Really sad. And to me, one of the saddest things is like they were doing that because they wanted to help people. So here is also just shows you like how terrible the system was, because the explosion happened, so many people were hurt, so many people were dying, but they can only go to one hospital. They could not go to the main hospital. And Mother Cabrini went and said, "Hey, we need a couple more doctors. Like some people in our town, or some people in our area, there was an explosion. Like they need help." And they're like, "No, who cares? Like, oh well." And long story short, though a lot of the people and the kid would have lived if they were able to get to the different hospital. So they try that. So they're like, okay, what do we need to do? A doctor that is, I think he's Irish because he's not Italian, and he comes and volunteers to help. A really kind man. And that's another thing I like. Though the movie portrayed the truth. Like, let's be honest, especially during that time, they didn't want to send a woman over to do a job. That's just the fact of the matter, whether we want to agree with that or not. So a lot of the men were, I'll use the word misogynist. A lot of the men were, you're a delicate woman, you can't do X, Y, and Z. They were that type. But there were men who were good, like who helped. So this man that was worked the hospital, he was an Italian. No, I'm sorry, he was, I believe, Irish. He was like, "Hey, the reality is we need a hospital, or you guys need a hospital. If there was a better hospital, then this would not have happened." Well, so then she's like, "Okay," and he's like, "If there's any person who can fix this hospital, it's you." So, and then they say that, and then I believe it's the archdiocese man, the archbishop, whoever he is. I want to say he even said that they're actually shutting down the hospital. So they decided to shut down the hospital. And she's like, "No, we can't do that." So long story short, she's trying to get funding. People are like, no. Everybody's telling her no. Everybody's saying, "No, we can't do it. You're a woman, can't even do that." Nope. She goes to a very famous Italian opera singer, and he's like, "No, I don't want to." And then he makes a comment, "I don't want to help the church," which also leads me to think that he is homosexual. But I don't know if that's a thing. I think it is a famous opera singer for people who like know opera. So like, if you know opera, like you'll probably recognize the singer. And I think he's a homosexual because he said he didn't want to help the church. So, they need money. So they do a fundraiser, a little fun like Italian festival, cultural festival. And then the mayor sees it and calls the police. The police come, take the money and everything, and arrest her. One thing I found funny, it said something like, and the Italians will never have a festival. So what's it something? The Italians will never have a festival in New York, which is hilarious because like Italian, like there's cultural festivals not only in New York but like all over the country, and I'm pretty sure there's like specific Italian festivals in New York. So like, jokes on you. They won. So they arrest her, and then they're like, "Oh, and the fines and everything it comes out to 3,000 XYZ. Oh, coincidentally enough, that's how much we collected, 3,000 XYZ. And she was just furious. She was like, I cannot believe this. And they told her, oh, I'm sorry. And before, no. So yeah. And they, the archdiocese said, you've been arrested. Like, go home. Leave. You cannot come back. So she's tasked with, I think she only has like 30 days or whatever. She's to go back to Italy. And she brings Vittoria with her, which the other thing, like the subplot is just like, see how much she's grown and like how much like loving and caring about someone can change the trajectory of their life. Because she was like, that was her thing. She says that like, I was just a prostitute. Like, that's just who I was. She had been a prostitute. She was a girl because her parents died. She didn't have anything else to do. She needed money. She needed food. And that's what she did. So it's just, once again, such a good movie. So Vittoria comes with her, and Vittoria's never even left New York, so it's just like, oh yeah. And I loved all of her outfits. Her outfits were so cute because, you know, the nuns have to wear habits. I learned that in college. They wear habits. But Vittoria was able to wear like just regular fashion, and she looks so good. So yeah, so then they go to Rome, and again, Victoria's like, well, what are you gonna, because they still need to have the hospital. Like, the overwhelming thing is there still needs to be a hospital. They got the orphanage up and running, the kids are good, but they need a hospital for 5 points for the Italian people because they didn't have one. So she's like, oh, I'm gonna fight until I can't fight anymore. So she does. She fights, she keeps going, and then she's able to speak to someone at the Senate to give her a loan. I'm missing a part. There was, I can't remember if it was before or after this, but someone they got the building. I think it was before this. They got the building because she convinced the mayor. I'm sorry, because she convinced the doctor to find his friends. She convinced to find his friends, some rich friends that were Jews, that were Irish, that were, I want to say one other race, but to find them all, that because they came before the Italian. I think, yeah, they came before the Italian, so they had experienced discrimination, which is once again just so fascinating, especially because like I'll say down south, up there I don't think they do that, but down here we kind of think of Italians, Irish, Jews, kind of all in a similar, like kind of the same, not in like a negative way, but just like all white. So that's kind of how we see them. But like thinking about how there were people who could tell the difference, and then they could even be discriminatory, which I'll make another side note, just tangent for a second. The mayor had such disgust, and so many people had such disgust. I don't understand. And I'm not saying this is like, I am such a good person. I don't, but though, like, I literally can't understand. Like, that was the other thing too. I was trying to like put it into context. Like, how can you hate a particular person without knowing them? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. But I mean, the mayor hated them, did everything in his power to make sure they could not live a nice, free, safe life. Like, that was his goal the entire movie, to make sure the Italians were not able to live free, safe. Anyway, so all these men gathered together, they invest in the money, and then at some point, men came and burned down the building. So that was not good. I don't remember if it was before or after that happened. Anyway, so that happens sometime during the movie. That happens, the building for the hospital. So that happens once we start focusing on the hospital. This is not a perfect podcast. I'm not a perfect podcaster. So just FYI. Anyway, so she's back in Italy, and she's saying, I'm doing this. She goes to the Senate, and they donate money. She shows them the plans. They donate money. She goes back to New York. She and Vittoria go back to New York, and they go to the mayor, and they're like, hey, I need you to guarantee no one's going to burn down the hospital. And if you do, I think that the hospital's burned down the hospital happened after she got the money. The burning down of the hospital happened after they got the money. I'm trying to remember when they got the investments. Oh, there was also a part where she sent the orphans to sing a really sweet Italian song to the Italian opera singer. That, to me, it was funny because it was like, it's emotional manipulation. I'm sorry. You asked me to do something, then you have sweet little kids come to sing to me. I'll probably do it. Like, anyway, that was funny. So he donated to. Long story short, she went. So this is how the movie wraps up. She went, tells the mayor, hey, I am the New York Times here, and he's going to say that it's your fault that our hospital burned down unless you call them off. You need to help us. There are people who, some of them are immigrants, and then she said some of them are Americans that will be voting. If you help us, I will get them to vote for you. But we need help. We need a hospital. We need a place. We need a safe space. Anyway, long story short, the mayor gives in. And then he says, too bad you were born a woman. You would have made a great man. And then she said, oh, no. She said something like, a man wouldn't be able to do what I, as a woman, can do. Oh, claps all around. Go ahead, sister. Let me tell you. Such a good movie. And that's how it ends, and they give us an update. And she did all those things, and she created hospitals and orphanage all across the country. Like, and I looked it up. Like, if you look up, there's definitely different Cabrini hospitals and organizations. And fun fact, my college, I went to Seton Hall. My college, I lived in a dorm building called Cabrini for 2 years, which is so crazy because I didn't put two and two together, but small worlds. But yeah, so that is Cabrini. I love the movie. It was really good. If you still haven't seen it, you should. And I can't remember when the fire happened and then when they got the donations, but you should. If you haven't seen the movie, you should. My biggest takeaway is like, no matter what, because she kept hearing, you don't belong. She kept hearing, you're not supposed to be here. This is supposed to happen for you. This is not. My biggest takeaway is like, just keep going. Even when you hear all those things, you've got to keep going. Especially, here's the thing, especially if God called you to do something. Okay? If God has called you to do something, don't listen to anyone else. You just keep going. God will honor it. And if God called you to do it, he will make the way. The other thing is she said something like, our disabilities or our weaknesses can control us, or we can take control over them, or something along those lines. So good. I mean, really, really good. I would say it again. So let's do the score. Plot overall, I thought the plot was good. I love the premise. Once again, you tell me first woman ever. I'm there. I think I was gonna say I think the beginning was slow, but not really. No, I really can't think of a single. I mean, there's the two plot holes, so I can't give it a complete 5. There's the two plot holes. Like, are they going to jail? Like, what's going on with that? But I'm going to give the plot a 4.5. I thought it was good. Let me write it down so I can do the average. So I'm giving the plot a 4.5. All right. Next thing, language. 0 cursing. So that is a 5. Spiciness, 0 spiciness. Chef's kiss. That's a 5. Entertainment. I cannot give it. It was really, really good. I'll give it a 4.5. I feel weird giving it entertainment a 5. But no, it was good. It was, because like, I laughed a little, but it wasn't like, aha! I didn't go through all 5 emotions strongly. I'll say that. So let me calculate this. 10, 19, 4 divided by 19, 4. All right. The overall TLG score is a 4.3. I thought it was good. That might be like the highest score any Ooh Spoilers movie got. I thought it was a 4.3. It was really, 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 really good. Very empowering, inspiring. I mean, I can't express how empowering, inspiring it is. You guys should see it. I highly recommend. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Bye. Whew.